Okay, so we're going to look at how to create a rubrics in Google Classroom and use them to assess work that students have completed. So the first thing we do is create an assignment, or I could use an existing assignment. It doesn't really matter one way or the other. So I'm going to create an assignment in the same way that we've normally, and I'm just give this a name, I'm spelling it correctly, rubric. I'm going to add the work that I want my students to complete. In this case, with this demonstration, I'm just going to use a blank document. Set it so that every student makes a copy, and that means everyone in the class will get a copy. Now, this is where I can attach my rubric. So when I click on this rubric option on the right hand side, I can create a rubric, reuse a rubric, or import from sheets. So if I've got one set out on a spreadsheet, I can import that in, and I won't go through that just at this moment in time. We'll stick with just basics and how to create and reuse. Reusing would be pulling through one that we've already created, and then obviously creating is where we'll actually make one up. So when I click on the create rubric, I'm presented with a screen which gives me the options. Now, I create rubrics for each of my criteria. So a rubric, if you're not familiar, is in essence kind of a best fit marking process. So you can have, for example, any number of sort of tiers that you want, but you might have, for example, a high, a middle, and a low sort of ability, and you might associate marks with them. So I'll give you a quick demonstration of this. So if this will work on Google Classroom, for example. So Google Classroom is the title, judgment on quality of answer. Okay, and I'm going to have 3 tiers to this. So I'm going to click on this little plus button. I'm going to have one which is a 3 point, one which is a 2 point, and one which is 1 point. And I'm going to have this as high level, to be a thorough understanding of Google Classroom. And then I'm going to have a middle level, which will be a good understanding of Google Classroom. In addition to that, then I'll have my low level, and this will be a basic understanding of Google Classroom. So I have my 3 tiers in terms of my assessment criteria, and I can add any range of these. And you'll notice that this is assigned 1, 2, and 3 points. I could have 10, 20, 30, but I'm going to keep it simple with 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to click save, but again, remember you can add as many criteria as you want for your assessment, and you'll see how this will translate into the classroom. So when I assign this to the students, and again, I can schedule this, any form of sort of assessment settings from previous content will help you with that. When it's then assigned, and I click into view assignment, you can see that it's attached my rubric. Click in my view assignment, and I can click on the student's work, for example. If I click into the work and I want to make an assessment, you can see here that the marks are out of 100. I could edit that at any point if I wanted to do so. What you'll see is that I've got here on the right hand side my rubric. So you can see I've got Google Classroom. If I click on this little arrow, it gives me my sort of descriptors, and I can click on the relevant description. It will assign the appropriate amount of points, and you'll also notice it will actually give an overall mark based on the criterion that I've selected. So if it was a low level and I felt that the work had shown a basic understanding of Google Classroom, had the student in this case written anything here, you would see it assigned 1 out of 3 points for this one, and then obviously given the equivalent as a total mark. So if I change the total points just as a demonstration to 25, for example, and said this work was out of 25, 3 was 25, 2 marks again, and 1, so you can see that it will recalculate automatically. Without it maximized, you can just sort of see it as here, and you can hover your mouse over to see which of the levels is most appropriate. And if you have multiple criteria, you'll see that multiple criteria will appear within this sort of right-hand tab, and you just then can pick which criteria you feel is most appropriate for the assessment of that piece of work. And there's a great deal of flexibility you've got, so it's not necessarily a case that you have to have more than 1 per piece of work. It might be just have the 1 or the 2. It could be that you have 5 or 6. And it's just a case then of selecting from these where you feel that student's work sits. And like I said, the more criteria you have, the more sort of accurate feedback you can give without necessarily having to spend a huge amount of time beyond clicking whichever best fit approach works for your assessment. When you're done, you can obviously just come out of that. The student will be able to go into their view of this document and be able to see what it is that you've assessed on those.